keep people segregated, and someone will feel they are better than others, they have more money than others, they have this more than the other people.
Yeah.
Then you create a kind of competition or a strive for someone trying to be something that they are not right now. And when that happens, it means goods and services will be exchanged.
Yeah.
And there's money created. It's uniform, like having one car that looks the same for everyone. Then there's no ambition and there is no commerce. But as long as you keep people segregated and divided, then they strive. They say, I'm a black American. Okay, I'm not. This is an example.
I'm not going to soundbite you. Mike pretending.
Yeah. So and this is what blacks are doing. They're doing well in corporates. They're doing well. So it's a strive. I'm trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
Now the other one is I'll say I'm white. So this is the standard of life, and I can't go lower than this. So I have to really strive.
Yeah.
So no matter what you identify as, you're still going to work for capitalism to thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as those divisions exist, then the wheel of capitalism is oil.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Diamond. We're back today, and I have a super special, exciting guest with me today. What's your name, bro?
Mike Ndegwa.
Mike Ndegwa. What do you do? How did I find you? What are you doing on the internet?
I think today we meet physically for the first time.
Yeah, first time.
Yeah, we met on Facebook and we've been chatting and engaging in posts.
Yeah.
And folks have common interest topics that we find interesting for both of us.
What drew me to Mike is one thing that I've complimented Kenyans on for a long time is I find that I can't say everybody, but there's definitely a segment of people in Kenya that are super sharp and in the know about what the hell is going on in the world. And Mike was one of those first prime examples of that I came across, to where the information he shares and the things that he studies can embarrass an American, even just on political matters, on American political matters. And during election season, I saw a lot of Kenyan social scientists or political scientists. They thought they knew everything about the American election and political process. You're not one of them. You actually spoke so far outside of the mainstream frame that I said, wow, where's this guy getting his information? So that's how we connected. You do have a company. You can plug that now, and that way, in case someone doesn't make it to the end, they know what you do. And I'll have his links in the comment section as well.
Yeah, when I'm not blogging or writing on Facebook, I have a tour company. It's called Begin North Adventures.
Yeah.
Normally we focus on the northern side of Kenya.
Yeah.
It's least seen. Mostly we are focusing on culture, landscape, the beautiful side of Kenya that people have not seen.
Yeah.
But we can also do parks and all these things. But if you want to come to Kenya and you want to get an authentic experience, that's what we work on doing.
This is your guy for all of my out of Kenya viewers, Ugandan viewers, American viewers, Puerto Rico, wherever you're at. If you want to live out temporarily that African fantasy of authentic culture, outside of the cityscapes and all that, this is most definitely your guy. There's a lot of companies that do these kinds of trips, but you can't just pick any company. It's not going to go well, right? You want to get a credible company with a credible guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we got you.
So we're going to just discuss some topics. There's no way that we're going to get through everything. We just talked for 2 hours. We talked for 2 hours off camera.
Yeah, off camera. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just going to touch on some things. hopefully we can spend about an hour, as long as this camera will last, and then hopefully we get Mike back around, or we find him outside of Nairobi sometime. So, first question, I haven't asked anybody this way. I don't know how you'll take it. What's it like to be a Kenyan? What does that feel like?
Okay, to be Kenyan is a struggling identity. Like I remember there's a time we were trying to get a Kenyan dress, and there was a competition for it, and trying to do with the flag, and it's coming a bit of like Masai, it's coming a bit of like Kikuyu. So Kenya is like more than 40 nations living in one geographical area. And whether you're coming from the south or the north, west or east, there's always a little bit of everything. Variation. Yeah, so for me, being a Kenyan is someone who interacts with all the people and appreciates all the views and cultures that are differently there.
So for those that aren't familiar, Mike said that there's over 40 nations here. If you're American, think about it like the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma, Chickasaw Nation. He's talking about the different tribes. So is it not disputed a little bit how many actual tribes there are? Some people say 42, some say 43, some say 44.
Yeah, I put a challenge on my page and asked people like, can you name the 42 tribes of Kenya? And I think out of 46 comments, no one who could really point.
So, hence, therefore struggling identity, like you first said.
Yeah, because some of them identify like sub-tribes of the main tribe. So you find you're repeating yourself when you're counting that.
And I realized that last year, one tribe has sub-tribes.
Yeah.
It's almost like Christianity has denominations.
Yeah, correct.
So, very interesting. That's why I like Mike, because the way he just answered that question was better than I could have imagined. I thought maybe he would just say, I love it, we're trying, pole pole. But the way he goes in depth is just super dope. So, we're in the year 2022. This is just kind of random. How does Kenya 20 years ago compared to Kenya today? I was trying to in my mind think of when Kibaki was president.
Yeah.
He got good reviews.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about 20 years ago was his era, roughly?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, there was a lot of hope for Kenya, and I think one of these reviewers wrote Kenya as the most optimistic country, one of the most optimistic countries in the world.
I can see that.
Yeah, and people are like really excited for a regime change that was peaceful. There was a peaceful transition of power.
Yeah.
And Kibaki, when Kibaki came, he brought some independence in like economy. Like
national independence.
Yeah. So like our revenue collection authority, taxman.
Yeah.
They even branded as tulipe ushuru tujitegemea, like pay the taxes so that you can be independent. And was able to increase the collection of taxes and do some projects with it.
Yeah.
And also like get free basic education, the primary education.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, folks who are unable to take their kids to school, like they went to school, so there was like the literacy level in the country like shot
increased. You said Kibaki brought free school?
Yeah, free primary education. Yes.
Kind of like America, we got free public school.
Yeah,
because of tax pay.
Yeah, it was not there before.
Yeah.
So it was really shocking that we could do this ourselves. Although some partners came in and when the project was initiated.
Right.
It still goes on even up to now. But again, it's on the public side. There's still the private side of education.
Right. So how does that time stack up to what's happening now? Has it gone up from that time? Has it gone down? Has it stayed the same?
Okay, now the cost of living, like you earn money and you see people doing projects, doing investments, but now the cost of living has gone up.
Yeah,
like really up. people are still earning the same money, or maybe have increased by a small percent, maybe 30% for the same kind of job.
Yeah.
But the inflation, the cost of goods, like we like using the price of bread. The price of bread was 20 shillings at the time, or even cheaper. It could have been 15 shillings, 20 shillings.
Yeah.
Now it's almost 65.
Right.
Yeah. So if let's say someone like a security, like a gateman, if I say that, if they were earning 10,000 shillings in 2000, it's still the wage today.
Pretty much the same.
It's pretty much the same. But the cost of living has tripled.
Right.
Yeah, so it's more tough, I would say.
Since I've been around back and forth since last year, I've seen soda increase, cigarettes increase, which is fine and good. My eye, one day I went out for my eye and they said, oh, it's 13 bob now. I said, okay, fine. And then I go back a few days later, they say it's 14 bob now. I said, okay. Indomie just increased. Indomie increased. Milk is on a shortage at the moment. I don't want to get into 2020 election season yet, but I've been told that some of those things happening at the moment in regards to those increases are related to the election. But we can kind of circle back around to that part.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but still the graph has been there. It's been.
Oh yeah.
It may okay. For now, it may have spiked, but it was still going up. That was the trajectory. Yeah.
Now, and we've seen the same thing in the U.S. Over the last many decades. It's been an astronomical change. Like we went from I wish my mom was here to ask her how much bread was in the 60s, but the way you're talking about the bread increase now, I'm not there at the moment. The inflation is insane. But last time I bought bread in the U.S., you're spending basically 200 shillings. And also, keeping in mind, this is a highly processed, genetically modified bread. So that same increase in inflation, it seems like a global thing. And sometimes I wonder and speculate, is the system in Kenya riding on the same track as the system in America?
You see, the reason why I compared the increase in price with the wage is to see how much has the wage, like in the US you have minimum wage.
Yeah.
So you can say bread was maybe 20 cents.
Yeah.
But what was the wage at the time? And what is the minimum wage right now? You see? So at least for the US, the minimum wage has been going up and up.
It did to a degree, but it seems to have hit a cap, and that's been a big talking point. Yeah. Some people over there are trying to get $15 minimum wage, which is unrealistic depending on the job.
Yeah.
So yes, that's a good point that we do have minimum wage laws, but they don't match the inflation also.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, when we're discussing graphs, when you look at a CEO salary in 1960 versus a CEO salary in 2000 or 2022, it's insane. The same graph applies to prison populations.
Yeah.
So there's something in the water. I feel like maybe we're all on the same train track, even though we're on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know how far we'll make it through these talking points. Okay, so we'll just dive into this one so we can get through it. But colonization is a big topic in this country. Some people are upset about it. I think some people might be enjoying the fruits of it depending on what they were given in life or what opportunities they found. So what are some negative effects of the colonization that happened here, and then some positive effects?
You see, now when you put positive or negative, you have to compare it to something.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can say this is what we had before. How has it improved to the good or to the bad?
And that's often how I go into that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have to look at what it was before the colonization happened and what after, and have a basis for talking about then and now. Yeah.
Yeah, because now, like you can say, what are you looking at? Is it happiness? Were people more happier before colonization?
Hey.
Or like how do you define that?
Right.
Is it the life expectancy? Were people living longer or shorter during those periods? Or so you can look at all that.
Yeah.
Then you can say like before colonization. Let me start with the negative. Like there were no lifestyle diseases, no
Right.
lifestyle diseases. There was no diabetes, or
Yeah,
maybe if
yeah.
it was there, maybe it was not diagnosed because the diet was different.
Right.
But now we have industrialization that has come, that came in, which was introduced as part of civilization.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have everything going big and commercial, which means a lot of processing, and our bodies are not fully evolved to deal with that kind of diet, because we have been doing hunting and gathering, and our bodies are adapted to that kind of diet of meat from animals that have eaten on pasture, on grazing on open lands.
Yeah.
The same way, yeah. But right now you have animals which have antibiotics, and everything is almost artificial. Like how you bring up those meats, especially now in the US, where you have this processing.
That's where my mind is the whole time when you're talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here in Kenya, we have a bit of both.
Yeah.
You have people who are doing zero grazing, and you also have the pastoralists who still do have the animals roam the land.
Yeah.
But they may not have as much production in terms of milk, but maybe for meat. And there's also the issue of inbreeding. You can have the what do you call it? Like a heifer being mounted by a son or whatever it is.
Oh.
Okay.
Like ancestral breeding of a cow.
Yeah, of a cow.
I've never thought of this.
So the breeds, so the cows are really small. They are tiny cows.
Yeah.
So again, so you could say if there is some form of education on how to do breeding, even among the local breeds,
Yeah.
it can improve. It can improve on that.
Yeah.
So now, when colonization happened, there was also the colonizer, or the we call them Zungu when they came.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had three things. They had a school, education. They had a church, and they had a dispensary.
Dispensary.
Yeah, like healthcare.
Okay.
health
Medicine.
center. Medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so before they came, there's some disease that we didn't have, like smallpox.
Right.
So they also came with the diseases.
That again goes back to America. We learned the story of the natives getting smallpox from the settlers that came.
Yeah.
And even them giving blankets with smallpox on them, which is a whole topic.
Yeah, whole topic. Yeah, we don't go into that. But
Yeah.
so they brought the medicine, but also they brought the diseases, because the diseases that were there,
Right.
that were, the people had, they knew the herbs which to use so that to deal with that.
Yeah.
And we mentioned about living long. And okay, if people didn't die at because of wars, like tribal wars when they're young,
Right.
if they survive that stage, they would live really long. Okay, we don't have documented, but they for those who lived between colonization, when now they were doing documentation of birth,
Yeah.
you'd find people living in the 80s, 90s, even 200s plus.
Yeah. I hear stories about that even now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so now when you say that's what I said. If you say quality of life has improved,
Yeah.
how much has it improved compared to what?
Right.
Like if someone is living in a madhouse and they are content, they have the food, the shelter, they are happy with their grandkids and everything.
Yeah.
The other person could be living in a mansion in today's civilization, if I would call it that way.
Yeah.
But he feels he needs to do better. Get more furniture, get more of this, become like the friends, more comparison. So when you look at the happiness, if there was an index for happiness,
Yeah.
then they might not be happy.
And I would venture to say, I would just speculate and think that there was probably a greater sense of happiness before than after, because this colonized lifestyle, it breeds stress, it breeds depression, high blood pressures, and that goes into what you said, lifestyle diseases.
Yeah.
And the U.S. is rife with these lifestyle
it's
diseases.
good you
also.
brought in depression.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. For an African mother to give birth, from the day I won't even go to the prenatal. Let me just talk about the postnatal. When she gives birth, the other mothers who come to help her hold the baby, they nurse her as she nurses the baby. That was a custom for 40 days. She doesn't cook. She doesn't do anything. Wow. Everything is done for her. So there is no, postpartum depression where you have, women going crazy. The baby is crying all the time and everything.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about first-time mothers. It's whether it's the ninth child or the first child.
Yeah.
And then even after 40 days, you'd have another helper now, where you start to resume your duties. Could be a nephew or someone or an auntie or somebody. They could come interchangeably and stay with you for another 4 months.
Yeah.
So by the time the child is 6 months and they start weaning, you've had all the help you could get.
Yeah.
So in a way that was cohesion and there was social support.
Yeah.
That today you don't get. Like today you live you give birth in a hospital, you live in a go back home and you're looking at everything and wondering the mother is wondering where to start.
We always heard in childhood, I heard in US it takes a village, but there was no sense of village in where I lived, Yeah. And I think that's a good reference to it. And it seems like what you've illustrated is almost like what is now considered corporate maternity leave. But even in corporate maternity leave, you don't have your sisters and village sisters coming to do that support. You're just given time to go do all that yourself. Unless you're blessed with a supportive family, but...
Yeah, and even when they do, they also have their own issues. They can't be there like 24/7.
Right. So is there anything positive that can be mentioned about what has happened with this colonization?
Okay, see, for me, I didn't live I've lived the post-colonization. I think it's still ongoing.
Yeah. The whole world is colonized at this point. I would venture to say there's very few exceptions to it.
Yeah, so you really wouldn't... I've nothing to tangibly compare it because I know what I've been told. So that's what my grandma or my great-grandma told me, or grandparents. Yeah. That is the only thing I can compare it to.
Yeah.
And so for now, okay, I would say, for me, I would say like, you live life at the present. This is what we have. This is how it got us here. Yeah. How can we then make the most out of it? Because if we keep on lamenting of what happened in the past, we might miss out the moment. Yeah. Yeah. So.
One of my favorite songs. I got my first tattoo inspired from it, but the title of the song is "We Are Nowhere, and It's Now." Yeah. And it made me think of that because you definitely have to live in the present, and I think from my culture, from my Western culture, we can be so driven and consumed by what must be done, I have all these to-do lists on the chair behind me. Yeah. And every day I'm looking at these to-do lists. What can I get done today? There goes that pressure, that anxiety, that stress, that depression that comes with this lifestyle. And a girl told me one time, she said, I wish those Wazungu, the ones that colonized never came and we were just still in our village. And I said, are you sure you want that? But I think it's safe to say she was just really feeling the pressure and the stress of what we have to deal with every day. And like Nairobi life is not easy. Yeah. And you're not even living in Nairobi, you're north of the city. Yeah. But you still live in an established small city or big town that's bigger than my hometown. Probably. So things come with that lifestyle. Yeah. I always say, like, if all else fails, somebody just let me come to your shamba and I'll just tend to your food and grow food and just be at peace. Yeah. Because as much as I want to succeed in life and attain property and do different things, at the end of the day, what I want more than anything is peace, And once you step away, for example, from the so-called quality of American life and experience the local quality of this life in Kenya, you forget about air conditioning.
Yeah.
You forget about fast food drive-thrus. You forget about driving everywhere you go.
Yeah.
You drive, 200 meters down the road. But in Nairobi or anywhere in Kenya, you're gonna likely walk or maybe take a boda.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and many people have asked me, well, what the hell are you doing in Kenya, bro? And I tell them the quality of life is better.
Yeah.
Not everything is better, but better and quality are relative.
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about, pre-colonial and post-colonial. It's relative to what you know,
Yeah.
and also what you value.
Yeah. You see, like for Kenya, we have both worlds.
Yeah.
You can isolate yourself on the suburbs or on the leafy suburbs, and experience a certain kind of life.
Mm.
If you want to switch, you can go to the village, see some cows, and do some hiking, and you can you can switch into both worlds as much as you want.
One thing I've always said I like about Kenyans is that I know you guys will say that you're losing your culture.
Yeah.
However, as an outsider, compared to what I come from, it seems that the average Kenyan knows who they come from, but they also know the world that they're in today. So I see that too, that I feel like with Kenyans you get both. You can get a friend that grew up in the village carrying maji on their head, and now they're walking in the streets of Nairobi, navigating like they've been here since birth, but they know both sides, and I think that's dope. It's one step closer to identity versus what I've seen in America, where a lot of us don't know who we came from or what we came from. Some do, but many don't. So we're always clinging identity through new politics or new clothes, or new address, new house keys. Always making changes, trying to find something that sticks. But like, you're a Kikuyu guy, you're a Kikuyu guy. You got I don't know what you like to call them, dreadlocks or locks. Some people don't like the word dreadlock.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know the history of Mau Mau culture and how that links all together. And so man, we're only like 3 steps in to my list of questions. Go ahead with the locks. Go ahead.
Yeah. You see, like when my grandfathers or those who came before me, it had a different meaning for them. It was a struggle and that kind of thing. For me, it's just a hairstyle.
It's a style.
It's a style.
And so for your grandfather, it was for lack of ability to do hair maintenance, so they did a lock as a maintenance?
Not really. They used to cut their hair. I mean, even with tools.
Yeah.
But it was a symbol of resistance. They're like, we'll not cut our hair. It's like swearing. Like you won't do this until this happens.
Right. Like a hunger strike.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they let their hair grow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And like when you feel you've achieved the goal, that's when you cut the hair symbolically. Like now you've achieved that.
I learned 2 things about Mau Mau in the last month. One is apparently JKIA, which was originally called Embakasi Airport. I can't say in detail, but Mau Mau had a part in building that tarmac, but it wasn't paid labor. It was during the the colonial era, right? So it's forced labor situation.
Yeah, you see, what happens is when the white settlers came, Kenya is vast in its, the climatic conditions, the soil and everything. Yeah. So the highlands were the rich and fertile places. So the communities which lived in those highlands, they were gathered together in villages, and the white settlers took the land for plowing, and making that. So the people who are put in villages now, they will be made to work in the farms for pennies. Yeah. Because they didn't they came from a culture that didn't need much. You didn't need a big house. You could still live in a village.
Yeah.
But you had an extra coin that maybe you could get a soft life. Like you could buy a linen or
soft life. Yeah.
You could buy this or that.
Yeah.
And so in a way, it was like slave labor. You'd say that because of not paid, and that is why, because it was cheaper to produce here the raw materials.
Yeah.
And take to the factories that were booming in Europe.
The same thing happening today with like Asian labor and how they basically monopolize the market in America. When you go to Walmart, you're buying China. A vast amount of the American market is China. And sometimes people say, oh, bring me this from America. They're not understanding that a lot of those American companies are producing the product in China, Honduras, Costa Rica, even Starbucks coffee is from the Caribbean and from Kenya in South America. And it's a very expensive coffee.
Even the jeans, the denims.
Yeah.
They made here the processing.
The
EPZ, the processing zones.
Yeah.
They live here unbranded.
Did you say zones?
Yeah, they have export processing zones.
Oh, processing zones. I thought you meant the brand zones. There was a blue jean brand I wore in the 90s called Zones.
Maybe why you have been inspired by that. Yeah, they live here as white label. White label means it's not branded.
Yeah.
And the companies there in the US, they just staple their labels.
Oh my gosh, Mike, stop it. The number 2 thing I learned about Mau Mau, no major detail, but I did a Karua Forest vlog, and apparently that was a location where the Mau Mau would hide out. Yeah, in Karua Forest. That's a whole other onion of history and conversation. Yeah. So, okay, we've already talked about America a bit, so we'll do a little bit more and then move forward. This is a bit general, so you can take it wherever you want. But how do you see the effects of America on Kenya historically and currently?
Well, the best way to see how something has changed is not even the infrastructure or the way of doing things. It's the people. Number one is we have exported labor, what you call a brain drain, to the US.
Brain drain, you say?
Yeah.
There's
a lot of Kenyans who are working not even just on menu jobs, even on other jobs. And a lot of foreign exchange has come to Kenya. And maybe supporting folks in the rural areas, the old folks, they left in the rural areas.
Yeah.
So that is a start. Is one thing. The next one is you have USAID, where they use the aid to drive the dominance, and they have reached to the corners where maybe the government has not reached, and maybe provide water, boreholes, maybe some education, this and that. So you get to see people from extreme rural areas find their way to urban life through these donations, the USAID. There's also the cultural aspect, which is forgotten.
That's the one I see. That's the one I see the most as an outsider looking in. And I haven't been to the rural areas as much to have that perspective. Yeah.
You see, like we are socialized to believe food, shelter, and clothes. Those are the basics of life. But people forget the culture, the entertainment side of things. And the role it plays. So the music that is most played in Kenya, radio stations, it's from the US. The pop culture from the US has come here. So
Lingo, the Matatu murals.
Yes,
we've discussed on the channel already.
It's all from the US. So it's like the US is the mirror. It's like someone wants to achieve that life. The American dream, but localized. Here in Kenya. So it is what it is. I mean, whether it's good or not, it's it's for an individual to decide.
One funny thing I experienced, my first time in Kenya in 2018, I went to a club in Nakuru, and they were playing all American music until about 11 p.m. And at that point, everybody's just sitting there drinking their drinks, talking at the table. And as soon as the DJ switched to African music, what? The place just went on fire. Everybody is like, it's like their bodies just automatically move to that music.
Yeah.
But again, that's testament to what I was saying earlier about like, I feel like Africans know they're African and they still have that connection to their African identity. I'll just throw in this side fact. American image of Africa has always been negative, right? And it's always been associated with a certain shame. And I've seen that with Black America too. Not all Black Americans think or talk that way, but some associate Africa with shame. I've never met an African in Africa that's ashamed to be African.
I would say it's not really shame. Okay, you see, the struggle in US is different from what we have here.
Right.
The whites are the minority.
Yeah, here?
Yeah, in Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
There's a minority.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. And I don't see that African shame here at all.
Yeah.
At all. Even someone that's mad at their country or tired of certain things that are happening, at the end of the day, they say, "I love my country." Yeah. They might even say they hate their country, but they're loving it at the same time. And so, but I like that.
Yeah, you see, like the US is like this fabric of migrants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, including the
whites. Everybody in America, with the exception of the Native Americans.
The real Americans.
Yes, the original Americans.
Yeah.
Everyone else is a migrant. The French came, the Spanish came, then the British came. And then once the British came and established, a little bit of everybody came after that.
Yeah. So now you have these, if you're both visitors, and then we are equals.
Yeah.
In that we all came to this. No one has bragging rights to say that this is my country.
Right.
But now that is not the case. It's now made to appear like it's a European white kind of country, and everyone else is, I think there's this comedian, he's from South Africa, but now doing the Daily Show.
Oh no, Trevor,
yeah. And he made this comment: why don't we have, we have these Black Americans, we have African Americans, you have the these minorities.
The Latinos. Yeah, we got Latinos, but no, Middle Eastern.
We don't have Anglo-Saxon Americans. They're like Americans.
Right.
Like, why don't they have even in forms in a bank? Why don't they have those tags?
Those forms for college, for jobs, for social services, almost anything you do formal is going to have that section. You don't have to answer it, it's optional, but they're counting people, and I think they're programming your mind. So it says white, and then it'll say white in parentheses non-Hispanic. So there they want to signify between, let's say, a Venezuelan who looks white, but they're Hispanic. And Hispanic, there's no country called Hispania. Right? It's just Spanish speaking, which comes from Spain, which comes from Spanish colonization. Hey, you know how everything ties together. And then there's African American, which is ironic because not all Black Americans, I say Black Americans exclusively, by the way, because not all Black Americans identify as African.
Yeah, even the Caribbean.
Plain and simple, they just not all do. And then there's also a new wave, and there's a new term that I just learned. I don't know how long it's been around. It might not be new, but it's new to me. But foundational Black Americans. And they're operating under the premise that they were there originally. Now, I have a very good friend I'm going to be interviewing on a live interview. She's from Mississippi. She calls herself a so-called Black woman. Now, she is a melanated woman. She has soft, very long hair. She's mixed with Native. She might have Choctaw. I mentioned Choctaw earlier from Mississippi. I don't know. But she is the first melanated person in America to tell me that I am from America. And that's what she believes. So these categories they put on the documentation, they're constantly programming us into believing that we belong in a certain box.
Yeah.
I lied the other day on an application.
Yeah.
There's some applications have an option for 2 or more races. I chose 2 or more races.
Yeah.
I said, why not?
Well, yeah.
You know, and I told you earlier, like I got sickle cell traits.
Yeah.
So, what am I really? You know, and what are we really? America has really pushed these identity politics onto everyone. If it's not race, it's religion. If it's not religion, it's sexuality. If it's not that, it's your political party. If it's not that, it's your university. It's your neighborhood, your hood, your block. You know, there's something to categorize everybody, and I think it's definitely by design to kind of keep people from being cohesive.
Yeah, you see, for America to thrive, capitalism has to thrive. So everything else is secondary to that.
Yeah.
So it's about data. I mean, I mean, if you're going to do corporates, for corporates to thrive, they have to use data. And the other one is you don't. If you keep people segregated, and someone will feel they are better than others, they have more money than others, they have this more than the other people.
Yeah.
And you create a kind of competition or a strive for someone trying to be something that they are not right now. And when that happens, it means goods and services will be exchanged, and there's money created in the economy. So, but when you make it uniform, like having one car that looks the same for everyone, then there's no ambition and there is no commerce. But as long as you keep people segregated and divided, then they strive. You know, they say, I'm a black American. Okay, I'm not. This is an example.
I'm not going to soundbite you. Mike pretending.
Yeah. So, and this is what blacks are doing. They're doing well in corporates. They're doing well. So it's a strive. I'm trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
The other one is I'll say I'm white. So this is the standard of life, and I can't go lower than this. So I have to really strive.
Yeah.
So no matter what you identify as, you're still going to work for capitalism to thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as those divisions exist, then the wheel of capitalism is oiled and keeps moving.
The way he brings things full circle in my mind, ever since 2022, bro. Like, and it's the smallest things, and sometimes it's the most obvious things. It's so I know I do, and I know a lot of other people do. We overthink, we overanalyze. And sometimes it's just a very, very simple matter. So the way you break that down, it paints the picture very simply, and it's concise, and it cuts out a lot of the extra, that we get into. That's very much America. Do you think the same thing is happening in Kenya?
I mean, America is a mirror for Kenya. Like,
right.
We are trying to ape is like copy.
Yeah.
What Americans are doing.
Yeah.
So if the US or the West is the epitome of, mature capitalism.
Yeah.
Then Kenya is heading there.
Yeah.
So basically, So whatever is true in the US might be true for us 10 years, 15 years.
I see mirrors of America throughout Kenya. I won't say exclusively, because Kenya is Kenya, and Kenya is definitely Africa. But as far as culture things, contemporary culture, not the old culture, standards of living, here in Nairobi, the Westies. I just learned that word like a year ago. But the Westies, if you don't know, it's those posh sides of Nairobi. And I'm not super familiar with them, but I suspect that some of those hoods are actually just like middle class America, by American standard, because I would call this hood we're in here middle class by Kenyan standard. But if this neighborhood was in America, it would be called the ghetto.
Yeah.
Now, someone in Westy Nairobi might say, oh, you guys recorded in the ghetto.
Yeah.
But to me, I call Umoja like lower middle class, upper lower class the other day on a vlog, and then Buru Buru being the middle class.
Yeah.
By Kenyan standards. We're to try to keep things in perspective because it's hard to compare America to here. And I just watched a small film on Kilimani. Mm-hmm. It went from Buru Buru style, low-level bungalow mansionettes, to now tall buildings. And guess what? Same thing that happened in Umoja. Lack of sewer infrastructure development. So, for those who don't know and haven't seen my Umoja or Buru Buru vlogs, Umoja and Buru Buru used to be the Kilimani of the 1970s. At that time, it was a prized location. Everybody wanted to be here, but overdevelopment happened and maybe a lack of governance. So I kind of say all that to say, I think people should always stay humble because your hood can become the ghetto in a matter of 10 years. And even as far as celeb culture, you know, at our age, we're 36. Yeah. I've seen Lil Wayne be at the pinnacle of culture, down to now people are making fun of his dreadlocks and asking what happened to him. You know what I'm saying? So people should stay humble, you know, whether if you're in America or whether if you're in Kenya. I think humility is really crucial.
Yeah, you see, actually, when you're saying this, the social status, the stratification, and everyone feels challenged to, you know, like, so to climb. Like
you were saying about that capitalism.
Yeah, it's so natural. Like okay, not really natural, but it's been so it's become ingrained in us. Yeah. Then we see it like the way to live. Like you know, you're saying the same way you have in US, the way you've drawn the parallels. Yeah. It's the same way. Now someone wants to work hard and move from here to the next.
I would like to be in South B or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But my main reason isn't for status. Yeah. You know, like some people I think want to achieve for status. Some people want to achieve for comfort or safety. Yeah. So for me, I would like to be somewhere with more tarmac, with more paved roads, and better trash collection. Yeah. And, you know, if I was MCA of Umoja, within a week, we would be getting the streets clean. Yeah. That'd be the first step. Because pride in your community is number one. Like, you can't take care of a community that you don't find to be attractive or you don't find to be beautiful. Yeah. But when I saw the aerial shots of Kilimani, it didn't look no different than these signs over here. Yeah. It was just cleaner. And they were landscaping. And trimming the bush, trimming the grass, you know, adding flowers. Yeah. Did you see the Nairobi Expressway?
Yeah,
they're adding the landscaping, the greenery on the pillars. Yeah. Did you see the Maasai grazing his animals?
You know, it's you know, like if you look at how that express way was made from Kenya's largest